Alright, so in the latest Helldivers update, lots of new, great content got added into the game that has spiced things up. Impalers, super Helldive difficulty, new mission objectives, as well as side missions. They got rid of Orbital Scatter, which is amazing. I can use the Orbital Precision Strike every mission now instead of the non-precision strike. But with that being said, I tested all the weapons and the balance changes and will give my thoughts on them. I don't think you should let the nerfs to the Breaker Incendiary or the Flamethrower ruin your fun this patch at all. I just posted a video the other day, which was a build for every single support weapon in the game against the bugs. The Flamethrower and the Breaker Incendiary were never required to beat Super Helldive difficulty. Many more options than those were viable, contrary to what people may have been saying, but I do think that some of the nerfs were extremely uncalled for, and even though this shouldn't ruin your fun, especially with the new content in this update at all, some of these nerfs completely missed the mark, and we do need to talk about them. So first up is the Flamethrower. Now this nerf was basically unlisted. It was a miscellaneous change, which says adjusted flame effects to work more realistically. It doesn't go through various bodies/objects where bounce off would be the expected behavior, like on armors and static objects. Now, what I will say is I think the reason for this is because two of the new weapons in the Freedom's Flame Warbond dropping in a couple days, the Torture, the primary flamethrower, and the Crisper, the secondary flamethrower, this is probably why this change was made. And if we're talking in terms of these two guns, a primary and a secondary, this change absolutely makes sense. Like, let's be real. If a secondary weapon would literally cook chargers and just fully power creep the support weapon flamethrower, then let's be honest, that wouldn't make any sense at all. So this change kind of did need to be made, but we're gonna talk about it some more. You know, what would make sense is that a primary or a secondary flamethrower is good for mobbing because it's weaker than the support weapon flamethrower, and then the support weapon flamethrower is still good for chargers. With that being said though, they made this change with no compensation to the flamethrower. Everyone is accustomed to flamethrower cooking chargers. People loved this weapon doing what it did, and it's really fun. Now again, I posted a video the other day, a build for every support weapon against the bugs. Go check that out if you're looking for something to replace your flamethrower. On top of me posting that video, I literally never use the flamethrower, like pretty much ever, except for when I was getting footage for that video because the flamethrower was obviously included. It's absolutely not required for Helldive difficulty, but I do think that a lot of other people did like to use it. And I think a very simple change to the flamethrower would to be giving it heavy armor piercing. That way there is a clear difference between the primary weapon flamethrower coming out and this one. Because let's be real, why am I gonna take a support weapon flamethrower for mobbing if it can't kill chargers when I can just take the new primary weapon version as well? So it's kind of that, like how I said, they needed to make that change to keep those primary and secondary different from the support weapon, but by not giving the compensation to the support weapon, it's the same boat. Why am I gonna take that support weapon when I could just take a Crisper, literally the secondary, and probably get the same amount of mobbing done? Now, some people in my Discord did find a spot on chargers where you can stun them and shoot them and still kill them with the flamethrower just fine. I'm playing those clips in the background now. Personally, I couldn't get this to work. I tried this maybe 7 or 8 times. I do feel it's a very specific spot you have to aim at. I don't really think this will be super reliable on like a Helldive difficulty once some stuff is happening around you. However, if you would like to try pulling this off, be my guest. So, on to the Breaker Incendiary. They have lowered the total amount of magazines from 6 down to 4. And they raised the recoil on it. I'll just say when I was messing with this today, I didn't notice a single difference on the recoil. It doesn't like jump off, like it doesn't jump vertically that crazy at all. But I did absolutely notice having nearly half the ammo of what it used to. I can barely deal with a single bug breach on Helldive difficulty, let alone super Helldive difficulty. And you know what? Instead of just ranting on why this change is truly asinine, I'm just gonna pull up a tweet from Pyet back when he was responding to all the criticism from players about them nerfing things nonstop, and that quite frankly did not need to be nerfed. He responded to someone and he said, "Very good question. First thing we gotta do is ensure we get more devs time playing the game. It's hard to make the right decisions if the eyes aren't on the road. Secondly, I want to ensure we actively look at the sentiment and create a holistic view of why feedback is given, and my working theory is that TTK is too high." So my only question after reading this tweet is, where are the damage buffs on so many different weapons this patch? The Liberator Penetrator still does a pitiful 45 damage. The Purifier is still a worse Scorcher and a worse Plasma Punisher. The Liberator Carbine and Liberator Concussive still do nothing. Why don't we have Shrapnel back on the Eruptor yet? I already know, a lot of you guys who want to feel like expendable grunts, you know, don't forget about the word elite, expendable elite force. A lot of you guys are gonna say the Breaker Incendiary was OP. It needed a nerfed, except no, it didn't. The Breaker Incendiary is good at dealing with trash mobs, and you were already mag dumping it into said trash mobs and running low on ammo pretty frequently. Now you are simply running out. It was already bad against Bile Spewers, Chargers, Bile Titans, the entire bot faction, now Impalers. And my main question to you is, when they add the Fire Warbond to the game in 2 days, which has 3 fire weapons in it, and they're immediately gonna be the best bug weapons because now the Breaker Incendiary is nerfed, are those just gonna get nerfed next patch? You know, how does this change to the Breaker Incendiary reflect what Pilestet said about lowering time to kill? And if you still wanna use the Breaker Incendiary, simply take a supply pack. It's gonna be the exact same gun. All right, rant done, all that stuff out of the way. Before we get on to the Slugger, which got its stagger back, let's just quickly talk about the grenade pistol. They lowered its max cap to 6 grenades total, but made it so that you get 4 on resupply instead of 2. I'll just flat out say that overall, you actually should get more grenades out of the grenade pistol. But again, the only reason people asked for this change with a grenade pistol was because in a 4-player setting, if you want to refill your grenade pistol, you would end up being a resupply hog. It's not that it necessarily needed an ammo buff, but it also didn't need an ammo nerf. And even though you probably will get more grenades out of it overall now, I just feel like this is some minuscule, perfect tweaking change where the balance devs need everything to be perfectly tweaked according to a spreadsheet, which is not a good look in my opinion. Overall, it might be a buff, but it's just one of those things that shows their old philosophy coming back into the game, which, again, Pilestet literally stepped down as CEO because they admitted that their old philosophy wasn't that great. All right, so now on to the Slugger, one of the nerfed guns that got everyone into a frenzy, which caused Pilestet to step down as CEO into the CCO position to help get our guns better time to kills. They finally gave this thing its stagger back. I quickly hopped into a bot game and it was staggering Devastators when you would hit body shots. Overall, a great change because there was no reason this gun needed nerfed in the first place when it was literally like an A or B tier weapon. It just felt really fun to use and a lot of people enjoyed it. It honestly wasn't that crazy in the first place, but in the right loadouts, it could feel high A tier. And it luckily is usable in bot missions again, so I do recommend trying it out. Now, the gun I really want to talk about is the crossbow. They made this a one-handed weapon, which is super cool. I still feel like the crossbow does need a bit more love. I think if it had like 8, 9, or maybe even 10 in the mag, rather than like the 6 it has now, it would feel much better because you are reloading it a lot. But I did hop into a bot game real quick with the ballistic shield, and as someone who does enjoy the ballistic shield, even though the bots have a ton of rockets, I am gonna bring this thing alongside a Senator or a Verdict, since the crossbow can close fabricators. And honestly, this will be a setup I enjoy using when I do end up going to fight the bots. Like I said, the only thing I don't enjoy is reloading it. I think this weapon could use a bit more love, but they did give it enough quality of life updates now that it closes bug holes and fabricators, and now that it's one-handed. It is pretty fun to play with, I'll admit it. And for those of you who don't enjoy the ballistic shield, it will be useful on carry the SSD missions, or if you go get that egg, which is now in the heavy Ness on bug missions. I don't know if that's only in super Helldive difficulty, but you do actually carry the egg with one hand, so the crossbow is also one-handed. And you know, that's a quality of life update, which is pretty handy. And for you silent stealthy enjoyers, the crossbow is apparently very silent. Anyone who watches Erevan should know that. All right, so now for the guard dog liberator. This now correctly resupplies when picking up ammo from around the map, and it has more magazines total in general. The problem with this is, why would you ever use it over the laser buddy, since that one doesn't require a resupply at all? You can see the clip in the background. It started shooting a charger, which was a perfect showcase to how long it shoots before it goes to your backpack anyway. This thing runs out of ammo what feels like almost instantly. Now, at the same time, it does deal with trash mobs just fine. Two-shotting warriors, one-shotting hunters if it lands the headshot. Again, I just feel like, why bring this over the laser buddy? Because I feel like the laser buddy does the same thing, but it doesn't require a resupply. This thing isn't bad, but like, it's just like, yeah, why bring it over the laser buddy? In my opinion, they could do some sort of overhaul to this where it was like a Punisher or even the Liberator concussive, instead of the regular Liberator, or I don't even know if it's a Liberator. It looks like a little pistol. But that way you could get more of a crowd control effect, and that's the trade-off, where it runs out of ammo, but it gives you some crowd control. And that would make it different from the laser one, which has unlimited ammo, but kills mobs for you. So I think, honestly, this one just needs like a redesign as to what it is. Just because, like I said, I feel like why bring it over the laser? All right, so that's it for the balance changes. Again, do not let a few nerfs stop you from enjoying this update. I think the new enemies, mission objectives, and super Helldive difficulty were all fun for spicing up the game. Me personally, I never run the Flamethrower. I barely use the breaker incendiary. I always use the pummeler against bugs. It's my favorite weapon, and with the stun effect, it's really strong. The major nerfs really didn't affect me at all. Overall, this patch adds a lot more fun than it does bad, in my opinion. But I do know for the majority of players, they both they use both of these weapons a lot. I think the medium machine gun is really strong right now, or even the auto cannon against bugs or grenade launcher. Don't forget to bring your orbital precision strike with you because it takes out impalers and bile titans, and orbital scatter's gone. Like, overall, this patch was a big W, and I ran a quick community poll, and it seems like most of you agree with me. I just feel like I definitely got to talk about this stuff because it's like, the nerfs literally are just like, why? Like, the player count is probably going crazy on Steam right now. Let me even just pull it up. Yeah, 50K players on right now, and it's not even the peak player time. Like, normally we'd have like 20K players on right now, I believe. Yeah, 1420 yesterday, we had 22K players on. There's already 50K players on. So I just feel like, why nerf stuff in a big patch where a bunch of players are gonna return to the game? It's just bad optics. And I also feel like the direction of these nerfs is, again, just like, why? Like, I don't know. I would love to see what Pilestat has to say about lowering TTK when it comes to the exact context of this patch. And I do feel like the spreadsheet balancing that people really hated, like, I don't know. It's like, the patch was good, but it just has you scratching your head and asking yourself why. So that's gonna be it for me. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out.